certificates. You get PD hours for this. So if you are interested in receiving a PD certificate, give me 48 hours, but I need your email address in the chat messages, and I'm going to take that after the meeting's all finished, and I will send out PD certificates that you can complete for yourselves afterwards. Okay, you'll get an hour of PD time tonight. Jess is going to do a little bit of question and answer, so I think she wants, you know, a lot of audience participation. And at this point, Jess, I'm going to hand it over to you, mute myself, so off you go.
Awesome. And also, just so you guys know, Gladys was also a librarian and teacher. So if you have specific questions too, like around the curriculum and stuff, she can kind of jump in and like help explain as well. I'm just going to admit someone into the room real quick. So I'm going to give you, I'm recording as well. I'm going to give you guys all a second to put your names into the chat, so you make sure that you guys all get credit for it. How I was thinking of doing it, I'm just going to do like a quick, maybe 10-minute run through of like Mackin Via, just so you can see what the actual platform is. So when we talk and we ask questions, it kind of frames that, so you know what it does. Then, you know, talk about different digital options. There's something called the Connected Library Consortium that I think would be helpful for a lot of you. And then really, I kind of want to turn it over to you guys. Like, I want to hear what your obstacles are, what your challenges are, and we can talk about like how we can figure out ways to support that. I really want this to be driven by you. And I want to make sure that we help you all find answers, you know, to these obstacles. I can't imagine. I'm stressed out for all of you. I don't know if you can, I have like this gray stripe now that I call it my COVID stripe. That's like always was like, it's gotten really bad. So now I have to like wear my hair parted over until I can get to the salon to get it colored. But if you have any questions while I'm talking, or you know you have to leave and you want to get your question, Gladys is going to take care of the chat. So just throw any questions in there that you all have. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and you guys actually get a treat because Mackin Via got a facelift today. So this is the Mackin Via 2.0 that just came out this morning. And there's actually some cool upgrades coming in October, September, October, that I can tell you about that I think would also help support your teachers through remote learning. Okay, so this is Mackin Via. Mackin Via is our digital platform. We are Mackin. So Mackin's our company. This is a question we get a lot, like what's the difference between Mackin and Mackin Via? Mackin is our company. We've been around for 35 plus years. We're a book distribution company, so we do pre-K through 12. Anything literacy related, we pretty much take care of. We do library, we cover maker spaces, we do classroom libraries. Anything in the book world, we have a say in. And Mackin Via is our digital platform. So my favorite thing about Mackin Via is, first of all, that it's free. And it's not just like pandemic free, it's free every day of the year. So you could buy nothing from Mackin and still use our platform every day. And the reason you would probably want to consider doing that is because it's also the only open source single sign-on platform that's out there. So by single sign-on, meaning you can take databases, you can take websites that you get from other companies, things like Pebble Go, Brain Pop, and you can put it in there. You can put ebooks from other vendors, like I said, your databases, and you guys probably know this better than anyone at this point. Since the pandemic has started, we know that the more barriers we put up to getting kids access to things, the more we're going to lose them along the way. And we don't want to do that because we already know what kind of equity issues that students are facing. So anything to make it easier, I think is a good thing. And so we really have designed Mackin Via to try to be that way. And the reason it works like that is because it's actually been designed by librarians. When you guys have comments or you want updates, that's when we do updates, is because it's something you've asked and requested, not because we think you want it. It's because it's something you've actually asked for. And so the other great thing about being an open source platform, so besides adding paid content that you got from other vendors, you can also put your own content in there, which again, I think when we're talking about doing hybrid and remote learning is really important. So I'll actually start with the different kind of different ways you could use open platform. So you can add websites on here. You can put pretty much anything that has a URL. There's some really great and cool ways that you can do that. I've seen schools do it during the pandemic. So for instance, if your students are maybe writing stories, like writing their own stories, you could actually, I apologize, I see a bug flying right behind me and I'm like catching my attention. But you could take a story that a student wrote and, you know, as a Google Doc, get that shareable link and you could put it in Mackin, and now you could have their story as an ebook that could be checked out by other students. You could put in websites to resources that you want your students to access, and it's all pretty easy. So my big thing is if it takes more than 5 minutes to do, it's not going to work for education because nobody has time to sit there and spend an hour figuring something out. So what I love about Mackin too is that we can do pretty much anything. So when I say you add a resource, it's copying and pasting a URL in. Like that's how easy it is from the admin side. You can also add videos. And so what I love about the videos, I don't know if I shared my audio, hold on. I'm gonna add my, okay, so this is a YouTube video. First, I wanna point to you can cite your sources, which I think is like really important. Even for the little ones, they can still copy and paste and put it in their bibliography. So when we're teaching them bibliography, you know, we know they don't know how to write it yet, but you can still copy and paste it. So this is a YouTube video. I'm gonna play it just a couple seconds just so you can see. But a couple things to notice. So this video
Dragon SpaceX, you are.
It didn't go to YouTube and it didn't play ads. So you can actually embed resources and videos from Vimeo and YouTube on here. Again, when we're talking about hybrid learning and we're talking about blended learning, remote learning, we don't know if the kids are going to be like where they're going to be. This is like another great feature to use. So if you were doing lessons, you know, on copyright, you could have your videos and put them inside Mackin and have them housed there and available. I've seen some really cool ways to use the video feature. I love book trailers. You know, I think that's a great way to get students engaged. You can put book trailers in there. And because Mackin is a closed site, like if you wanted to add student videos, you have the ability to add student videos as well. So just another way that you can add additional information. Okay, so audiobooks are professional audiobooks. They're not very exciting to see, but you know, I'm sure that you guys know what audiobooks are. So like, as I mentioned too, we can put any database that you have into Mackin and almost all of them are part of the single sign-on, but we also allow you to do something called a deep search. So if I am doing a project on presidents, probably a dangerous topic to choose. So it's actually going through my databases and pulling out where the resources are, so where the hits are. So this is helping them even decide maybe which database do I start with, like what's a good place for me. And I could say, okay, I really want to use Gale in context. It's going to give you a list of all the different, you know, all the different articles. And because again, it's single sign-on, I can click on it and it's going to take me to the article without having to sign on again. So again, we're really trying to get rid of those barriers to your students to make it easy to get their research and their books in everywhere in one place without having to go, without having to add additional steps to it. Okay, so then we can go to ebooks, and ebooks are the same way. So if I'm doing a project or I'm really interested in penguins, I can go through all the penguin books, and these are different ways you can see the books. So this is great. Like I love to do this tile view for the elementary school The big kids probably want to see a little more information. And so it's going through all of these books, and it's finding out where penguins are mentioned. So deep search doesn't just work with databases, it's going to work with your ebooks, and it's going to work with those websites too. So I'm going to use the penguin one again. It'll go through the websites that I have put into Mackin and figure out where there's hits on penguins. Okay, so again, it's like Nat Geo. It'll give you a little synopsis of what that page or that article is about, and you would click it and it would take you right there. Okay, so I'm just gonna go to an ebook. Actually, I'm gonna go to my backpack. So backpack is what we call student accounts. We can connect to anything that your IT department wants us to connect to. So for elementary schools, I know things like Clever and ClassLink, those like Clever badges are really, are very common. We can do school email addresses. We can connect through Destiny or Alexandria. If your school has a specific program that they use, whatever it is, we can connect to it to create student accounts. And the great thing about that is once it's done, you never have to touch it again. So if a student joined your district tomorrow, you know, if a student joined Donna's district tomorrow, Donna wouldn't have to go and add that kid into Mackin. They would just automatically show up the next day. They would have an account and they'd be ready to go. So that's one of the other great things about setting up accounts. We can do it any way your IT department wants, but it also really takes the onus off you to have to worry about managing that. Especially, again, right now, nobody has time. Nobody has time for that. And it also creates accounts for your teachers as well. So teachers and yourself can get in just like students do. So just like I can go in and check out a book, you can check out a book, or a teacher can go ahead and check out a book, and maybe they want to check out that book to use for a class that they're doing. So they have that option as well. So this is my backpack, which is my student account. I'm going to see what I've checked out at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to go into this Buzz Aldrin book. Also right here, this is going to tell me how long I have left until it expires. Just like you make your physical circulation policy, you also make the circulation policy for your digital content. So you would be able to set and decide anything that you want it to be. Okay, so a couple things to notice. So first off, notice that the book didn't take me to the beginning of the book because I've been reading this book. So it's going to take me to where I left off. Even if I don't have a book checked out, as long as I'm in as myself in my account, it will always leave you to where you last left off. You don't have to check out a book to read it. Just like I can go into your physical library and pull a book off the shelf and sit there and read it for a little bit, I can also sit and read an ebook or listen to an audiobook without checking it out. And we have metrics to show you that, because I know circulation is important, and you know, I really love the hashtag a necessity, not a luxury. And so I think the circulation helps show how important you all are to like student literacy. So one of the new features coming is we've always had the ability to do that, but you're going to have a lot more metrics than we've ever given before. It's actually collecting the data now, and then there'll be a nice dashboard coming next month. But it'll show you and the teachers, if you want them to have access. If teachers are asking for reading logs, it'll show how long students were reading for. It'll show you if a book was completed. It will tell you if they were really reading it, or did they just open it and walk away and never turn a page. So you'll get all of that at like real data, so you can help make you decisions.
Jess, could I interrupt for a quick second before you move on, because I don't want to forget it? If a book, an ebook, is checked out, can anyone else read it in the way that you just described? Like, you know, you said you can read it when you're logged in and not have that book checked out. But what if another student checked that book out?
Well, if it's multi-user, then the entire building can be on it at one time. Multi-user is not common for popular fiction. If there's more than one copy of it, it doesn't matter. If there's one copy and I have it checked out and you want to read it, Amy, it would let you read part of the book. You wouldn't get the whole book, but you would be able to read like the first few chapters. And the idea being that you would be able to get through the beginning of the book, and by that point, I'm done with it. I've returned it, and now you can get it. So it will let you go through a little bit of the book. Okay. So if I click on the book, you're going to see that this bar came up and I've got like a couple of things over here. So I'm going to go to, first you're going to notice this is the bookmark. So if I want to bookmark a specific page, I absolutely can. I'm going to click over here on the hamburger bars. I don't know what they're really called. I just call them the hamburger bars. I'm going to show you the notebook in a second. So we can look at the table of contents. You know, maybe I was assigned a specific, a chapter, a specific part of the book. I can do that way. Book info. So we kind of hide the page length. This is where you find the page length. The idea being like with ebooks, it's a lot easier for like to support kids reading books that they're excited about. We all know that they judge a book by its cover, and I'm sorry, but I think it's that Pearl Buck book that's like really that's really tiny, but it's like I can't stand that book, and it's always on everybody's summer reading list. We know that's not always the most exciting. Like I love Selznick, like Hugo Cabret, and so many people don't pick up that book because it looks big, but it's not. It's such an easy read. So with ebooks and digital content, it's a way to kind of hide that a little bit. Just like I could do a deep search for databases and for websites, I can also look for anything with inside of a book. So maybe I forgot something. I want to take a note, or I want to get to a specific passage and I just remember one word or one character name. You can type that in and it'll go through the entire book and tell you where those hits are. And again, citations are important. So my citations are automatically provided. I can just copy and paste it right into my bibliography. So there's really no excuse for not citing anything. Okay, I can also take notes on the book. So I've taken a note there, but I'll do another one. You just hold down your cursor or your mouse. Okay, so then I just click it and I can change the color. So if your schools are doing anything that's like a balanced literacy program or a reader's workshop model, a lot of the kids are used to changing the colors or using like the sticky notes. Different color sticky notes mean different things. You know, maybe purple's the main idea and green is comprehension questions and blue's new to me words. So you can keep all your notes color coded. And if I click this little sticky note tab, it'll actually bring up all of the notes. This is what we call the notebook. It brings up all of the notes that I've taken in the book before. So I haven't taken a ton in this book, but you can see I've taken a few. And notice that it kept the color that I used for highlighting. It kept what I highlighted and it kept my note on the book. And I can make a note and save it. Change the color. And this is my notebook. And I can see my bookmarks here too. And you can, so what's the point of doing that? I can go into my backpack and I can go into my notebook, or I can go into any individual book. And in addition to title details, there's notes and highlights. And then I can take my notes and send them, I can print them, I can send them to my Google Drive, or I can send them right to my OneDrive. So I can make sure that if I'm using this for a project and my teacher wants to see notes, I can send my notes, to my drive where I can then do something with them. And while I'm talking about Google real quick, I should mention we integrate with almost every LMS system. So if you're using Schoology, if you're using Canvas, if you're using Seesaw, if you're using Google Classroom, Mackin can sit with, works with all of those, whether it's an app within them like it is in Schoology and Canvas, or whether you linking the material to an assignment like you would with Google Classroom or with Seesaw. Okay, so I'm just going to go back into the book real quick. And there's a couple of features. So when you see this play sign, I think it's like something like over 90% of our books have the ability to do text to speech.
There are no committees to serve on, and there's plenty of time and quiet to read and think.
Okay, so text to speech is that robotic voice, because we can't break digital copyright. The digital audio copyright laws. There are books called read-alongs that are professionally narrated audio along with the ebook. Text-to-speech is just is just that robotic voice. But there are different accents. Some books have up to 20 accents. There's some research that shows that learning English in the accent that you hear at home helps English language acquisition. So on some of the books, you're going to see like different accented Englishes, which again is supposed to help and support our English language learners. There's also some accommodation features, so we can make the books large print, which we know helps with tracking. We can make books, we can change the font, including an open dyslexic font, to support ADHD and dyslexic students. I can't read a white background. It drives me crazy and gives me a headache. So I like to read in the more muted background. So there's just different ways that you can change the book to make it support different students. And anything with audio. So
For a fact that you could see.
So if I went back to text to speech, and this is also true for those read-alongs and for professional audiobooks, you can also change the speed. So you can slow things down. So if you have students who are on IEPs for comprehension, we know that slowing things down can help that comprehension acquisition and retention. So this is another feature to help our striving readers. Okay, so I'm going to get out of the book. So categories are genres. I love genreification. I think it's hard to do in a library because I don't know if you guys are like me. I get annoyed because every book is like multiple categories and you're like, where do I put it? It's a mystery and it's an adventure. Like, where are the kids gonna look for it? You don't have to worry about that digitally. If it's an adventure book and a mystery book, it can appear in both. There's nothing stopping it where it's going. So it can appear in every category that it naturally falls in. And actually, this is where I usually send students when I get to work with students, when they don't know where to start. They usually know what they're interested, whether that's sports or fairy tales or, fantasy. I always like to send them to the genre, which we call categories, and have them search that way. Graphic novels, it's like a great way to just kind of get them started in finding books. And then there's the group feature, which is my favorite feature, and I think this is, I always say that this is why librarians are such a necessity now more than ever. And I think this goes to show you guys know how valuable you are, but sometimes we know we need to just show evidence of that, because admins don't always get it. But I think the group feature is like why you guys are so important to this process, and why I think Mackin is like a great way to kind of support why librarians are a necessity and not a luxury. It's a way and I think nobody knows curation better than a librarian does, right? Like, that's what your degree's been in. Like, you know how to find things, and like you guys are the keeper of all of that. Think about everything you've been doing during COVID. Like, I've been seeing some of the NJSL documents and all of the crazy information. Like, I think Kim Zito, I know she's not on, but she had this crazy document at some point with all of these resources that she was getting from somewhere. This is a great way to house this. This is kind of like the similar thought process to that, where you can take all of the things and kind of make sense of them, right? So that's what a group is. It's a way to curate resources. So I'll show you an example, and I'll show you a couple so you get a feel of like what it can do. So this is an elementary space project. It could be really anything. You can remind the students of what the project is. You can put the instructions and the assignment right in there, and then you can put all of the resources that you think will help that students complete that project. And for the little ones, you're going to see these little icons. The icons tell you what kind of resource it is. So there's books. The play button is videos. The links are websites. When you see the earphones or audio. So you can have all different types of resources in here. And again, not just stuff that you paid for. You can take, YouTube videos and have them go in your group. If we're doing an extreme weather unit, maybe I want some books on tornadoes, but I also want a video of what a tornado looks like. You can put those videos in there and have them curated. Some of the really crazy things I've seen people doing during some of the crazy groups that I've seen, groups or librarians make during the pandemic were the book trailers, trying to get the kids excited to like try a new title. They would have the book trailer and then the book in a group. I've seen a lot of schools put their lessons in here, you know, like maybe the teacher was doing like a mini unit on like a book club on mystery. Like there'll be a 10-minute video on what makes a book a mystery, and then some mystery options that are like age appropriate for that group. There's just so many ways to utilize this feature. Has anyone ever heard of the Living Wax Museum project? It's where the kids do the biography, and then they become that wax figure that comes to life, and they tell their biography story. One of my schools was doing that, and the date for their big wax figure event was like 2 days after school closed down. Like school closed down on Friday, their event was supposed to be on Tuesday. The librarian had each of the kids record themselves, and she put all of their videos in a group so that they could all still see each other's. So everyone could still see who they were supposed to be. They all dress up like they're the person they do the biography on. So there's really no limit to what you can do with the groups feature. A lot of schools use it for book club. So you could just put some book club books aside. We also have a professional version of Mackin, so where students don't have access to it. So you can put professional resources in there. If you wanted to make it a JSL one and just store things in there, you could do that as well, and just like have all of the materials that that you want to access. So there's really kind of no limit to that. So that is Mackin in a very quick, very brief overview. Does anyone have any questions before I kind of talk about some different options and then turn it over to you guys? Glads, is there any question I should address? Are we good?
Jess, I don't know if you're going to cover this, or if nobody else has this question, you and I could talk offline, so I don't want to take up group time. But I'm wondering how the integration with like a Destiny or an Alexandria, like, so those resources show up, like, so we would use Mackin ideally, and students would use this as their one-stop catalog, right? They would get our, go ahead.
Your print books can't be, like, this is not an OPAC system. I guess you could kind of think of it as a digital OPAC system. We give you MARC records. So any ebook that you get from us, any audiobook, we give you the MARC records so your students can search your OPAC system for that. That being said, there's a very big divide amongst, and I have no side in this, amongst librarians about whether they want their digital content integrated with their OPAC or they want it completely separate. Whatever you want to do, we can facilitate that. So if you want your students to go to like Destiny or Alexandria search and then just come to Mackin, you can. If you want to put all of your digital resources in Mackin because it's single sign-on and you don't want them to have to remember logins, you can do that too. It works however you need it to. It's also an app, so it's web-based and app-based. With the app, they can actually download for offline reading. The app looks pretty identical to the website. I'm gonna say that with a caveat. I don't know if it's updated, if the app has updated yet to match the new facelift that it got this morning, but it will. I don't know if it manually pushed out. I haven't opened. I should have opened mine and check before I got on here, but I did not. But Amy, it's really up to you. Whatever you needed to do, Mackin is kind of versatile enough that you can do that. We have some schools who put a link to their Destiny catalog on here, you know, and really let kids kind of figure out. If your kids are using Destiny and like they're like, that's all they know, then put the stuff in Destiny. If they're not going there and they're, you know, you have those students who are just like, who love to walk into your library and just like, you know, start rummaging around and like picking things off the shelf, then maybe send them directly to Mackin. But nobody knows your kids better than you do. You know, like you're gonna meet yours for the first time. but you'll get a feel of what kind of readers they are and what they gravitate towards and what they know.
Okay.
That was a really unanswered answer, but
No, I mean, I think my primary question was, can my print, books in Destiny be seen in here, right? And so that answer is clear, right? Like,
yeah,
they're
it's not
separate. Okay.
Yeah, it's not an opaque system.
I just like this better. So it's like that was like wishful.
Yeah, we get that a lot, so I take that as a compliment.
Yeah, but that's really what I wanted to understand. That's fine.
Yeah, I guess this is like collections. Is that what or Discover, Destiny Discover? Is that what their ebook stuff is?
Yeah. Yeah, and we can't get ours working right, and like it's glitchy for us, and it's unclear, where those problems are originating. But this just feels, it would just whatever. So anyway, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
All right, so I just wanted to talk briefly about some different digital options that are open to you guys. So first, we do have the New Jersey state government contract. Our normal discounts are probably 20 to 30% off list price. You guys get an additional, because anyone who's a public school, all New Jersey public schools get an additional 11% off print, 5% off ebook, and then you guys get free cataloging, processing, and shipping. So if you want to search books just a la carte, you can go to Mackin.com. Think of Mackin.com as sort of as like the tidal wave equivalent. It's the commerce side of Mackin. We work with over 18,000 publishers, so if it's available, we can probably get it for you. So that's an option. You can buy books just for your school, your individual school. You can also buy books and then share them with another school in your district or a random school that you might be friends with. So I know we have some East Brunswick people on, so Donna could buy a book for her school and say, I want this book shareable to all of the schools in East Brunswick. So when she orders that, she just makes a little note to us, and then we'll put that book so it's now searchable in all of the East Brunswick schools. There's very few publishers that don't allow that. All of the big ones allow that. You can't do it with multi-user. So multi-user, again, meaning the entire school can be reading one book at one time. Got to be honest with you, the really exciting fun books that we all love, not available as multi-user as much as we all wish they were. So there's a shared collection is always an option. And there's something called the Connected Library Consortium, which is a shared collection, but it's a very, very big shared collection. So it's actually run by librarians. It's open to any school, public or private, in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. It was started by librarians 5 years ago. And you pay based on school size. And how it operates is that all of your money goes together into a big pool, and anyone who joins gets a say in what books are purchased. So there's a form that goes out. You get to say, yeah, these are some books I want. And as long as they meet certain criteria, they usually will add your book for you. And those books are then put into everyone's account. They're also perpetual, meaning you have them forever. So even if you only join the consortium 1 year, you would never lose access to the books that were purchased in that year. They're buying really high interest titles, ebooks and digital audio. So we're talking about things like One of Us is Lying, Diary of Wimpy Kid, the new Sadiq books from Capstone. Like, those are common titles that you would see in the collection. To give you some pandemic numbers, this current year, elementary school is going to get a little under $300,000 worth of ebooks. Again, the average elementary school pays $500. You guys are going to get about $300,000, a little under $300,000 worth of books. Middle and high school are going to get about $150,000 worth of ebooks and audiobooks, and you'll never lose access to them. So they're not buying subscription titles that are going to disappear in a year, or 26 checkouts. You're going to have them until the zombie apocalypse takes, or the next storm takes down all of our power forever. You're going to have this content. So this is called the CLC. I'm going to put a link to them in the chat. You do have till September 1st to sign up. So I would also say if you're interested, something to consider. I'm just looking for the chat. I'm going to throw this in there. We're also really big on training. So I never want anyone to buy something from us that you will never use, that is not great for you and that is not great for your kids. I'm also a really big believer, and I know Gladys is too, and it's just kind of like the Mackin mentality, like we're team literacy. So we want kids reading books and we want them to be excited. And the way for us to do that is to get you guys excited. So my goal is to have all of you excited and like pumped and like comfortable using the ebook, so you can pass that on to your teachers and you can pass that on to your students, because we want the kids to have access to books, especially right now. We know there's all sorts of craziness going on, you know, and like I'm sure everyone's read the articles about like how reading score, like this is going to affect reading scores, and it's like more important now than ever to make sure that kids have access to books and all the equity issues. And we know with everything that's going on in the world, like having diverse books is like such a great way to make an impact on a child and make them feel they're validated and they're heard. So I'm very much team literacy. So anything I can do, like we'll do free training for you. That's not an issue. We don't charge for that. We'll make sure that you know how to use it. I'm actually doing a big webinar tomorrow on like how to set up your Mackin at 10 tomorrow, which we're recording. So, but we can always do one-on-one trainings with individual districts or schools as well. That's not a problem. So that's my spiel, and I just want to kind of turn it over to you guys for questions. There's not too big of a group, so anyone can ask. Glads, is there anything that I should address or?
There was a question I was typing an answer to. It'd be easier for you to just talk about it. If they join the CLC for this year, but cannot join next year, the books that they had access to this year, if they're perpetual titles, they will have access to them forever. Is that correct?
Yeah, and there's no maintenance fees, there's no hosting fees. It's just you always have those books.
And if their subscription, just when the subscription runs out. So if
The
it's a 1 year.
the CLC does not buy any subscription titles. They are only buying, they're only buying perpetual licenses. So you'll have them forever.
I may have missed this in the beginning of this, but did I hear you say that Mackin is a free service? We just have to like log on to it?
Yeah,
Mackin
itself is like the platform is free. There's no hosting fees for it. There's no, like, we don't charge anything for it. It's and that's not just because of the pandemic. It's always free.
The CLC is the part that we're subscribing to get access to the titles that are purchased in the year that were subscribed.
Yeah, and you can buy regular books for Mackin. Like the platform itself, a lot of platforms have hosting fees or maintenance fees. Like there's none of that. Like you just always, we're never going to take that away from you.
So Jess, I'm trying to go shopping right now on Mackin.
Okay.
Do I need an account to do that?
Yeah, so you need to register and create an account first on Mackin.com. There's some of the items have like teacher guides on there, so we really don't want students playing on there.
Sure. Yeah. Also, if I wanted to purchase the 2019-2020 title list, is that the same price as the current year, the upcoming year price, the list?
Yeah,
2021.
It's the same because you have them forever, so there's like, they don't really discount it. This is also the CLC made this pricing, which I think is why it's so reasonable. Like librarians created this model, which of course is why it makes sense and why it works so well. Like crowdsourcing, it's what librarians are great at. So yeah, so you'll have these books forever. Just to be fair though, you still get a ton of books from last year, but there's no way that anyone's getting, you know, the middle and high school were just under $100,000 last year. Elementary was $65,000. So there's a big jump, but you still get a lot of titles. I think last year elementary got 600 unique titles. Middle and high school we're looking at 700 to 800, and they're buying multiple copies. That's how this system works. They're buying more than one copy of a book. The more popular a title is, the more copies they'll purchase.
So are the books that were there in the previous years, they're still in the the new year and they just add on to it, or are they kind of half and half where they have new books and they have some of the older books?
They have some of the older books, like if it's on if it's an award winner, if it's being requested by everybody, if it's like insanely popular, or the movies, like they had The Giver, and then when the movie came out, they got some more copies of The Giver because that's what kids wanted to read. It tends to lean towards the newer, but they will, like, if there's a reason or there's a huge request for it, because you all as the people who join kind of guide what books are purchased. So if everyone's requesting a title, they'll, and it's available, it's in a perpetual model, they'll buy it.
Okay, then I have an add-on question. If the books, if we decided to buy something from the previous years, will we end up with multiple copies of a book, therefore people can read it more than one person can read it?
Yeah. So if the consortium is buying 60 copies of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, your students have access to 60 copies of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And I will tell you, it's people worry oh, it's going to be like my public library. I love my public library, but the wait time, they're pretty much only buying 1 or 2 ebook. They're not buying a lot. So there's currently 3,700 books in the consortium, every grade level, every year. Out of 3,700 books between May 1st and July 1st, only 42 books had a wait time at all. The average wait time was under 48 hours. The way that we make that work is that me and my teammate Katie, we monitor your usage. If a book goes up, we just ask the consortium to buy more copies of it. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of a growing curve just because there's now 5 times as many schools as there was last year. Last year there's 215. We're at about 620 right now, schools. So that's an exponential growth thanks to COVID. And they don't spend all of your money right away. So you get most of your books in the beginning of the year, but they also save some money to get the new releases when they come out, because we all know fall's the big publishing season. At the middle school level, how do you not get the new Rick Riordan book when it comes out? In the high school, we know some of the biggest YA titles are set to be released this fall. So they'll always save some to get the new releases. And they'll save some to do quantity adjustments. When I use the high school example, just because I see Bobby on my screen right now, when the book One of Us is Lying came out, it took a couple of months before it became the big hit. It was 4 months later. They only bought 3 copies of it when it first came out, and then it became a big hit, and they were able to adjust and add more copies because it wasn't the big hit when it first came out. It took a couple months for it to catch off and be the next biggest thing. So they were able to adjust and purchase more copies. So that's kind of how we make it work. We monitor the usage, and if we see a book's usage go up, we'll just ask the consortium, we'll make the recommendation that they purchase additional copies.
The CLC pricing that we're looking at now, so it is by school. There is no district pricing.
There's no district pricing, no.
Okay.
I have a question on the CLC books. So if you subscribe to that and your library has access to it and you're set up for sharing with your other elementaries in your district, say, can you then share the books that you get through the CLC?
No, those cannot be shared. So the consortium, the CLC exists outside of Mackin, we're their vendor. They have chosen and there's a little bit of a complicated copyright issues to that. So we can't have those books shared within their district. It wouldn't be fair to the other schools because they're not sharing. So they do make everyone buy it. If the school wants access, they do have to buy into it. Anything you buy on your own outside of the consortium, for the most part, can be shared as long as the publisher allows that.
Jess, for anything that we already own, let's say that it's in Destiny right now. Does Mackin, let's say I have 1,000 ebooks. Well, I don't. Let's say I have 200 ebooks. Does Mackin integrate them for me, or do I have to do that?
I give you directions, but I just need the MARC records for your ebooks only. And there's an easy way to do that from Destiny. I have instructions on how to do that. If you want to add your databases and websites over, that's really easy. You just email me the URL, school username, school password, and we take care of that for you. So you don't have to worry about that. We'll add the ebooks and the databases for you. We call that migration. So we would migrate that over to our platform.
So for the databases, it's still going to be single sign-on. So they won't be using their old username and passwords for the databases. Is that correct?
Yeah, they won't. They don't need to worry about that. They don't. And the great thing about that is you don't have to worry about, they don't need to remember 7 or 8 different usernames and passwords, especially at your level. Like when they're doing those research projects, that's important. And like every different vendor sets you up with a different username and password. You don't have to worry about that. Once they log into Mac and Via, they don't need the usernames and passwords. And for the little ones, like at Amy's students ages, like it's hard for them to remember. She's got the little ones. It's hard for them to remember passwords. So it's just easier to put, for the little guys, just to put everything in one spot.
Awesome.
I am going to plug our professional learning department real quick. Every month during the summer, we've been doing, like last month was diversity. We had Cicely Lewis, the ASL, she's actually from Georgia, librarian of the year, do a session, but August is on blended learning, going back to school. So we actually have a webinar on Thursday about blended learning for connection and curiosity. I'm gonna put a link in we give PD credit as well. It's like everything is free, but this is our summer month. I'm just gonna put a link to that if anyone wants to join the webinar. And I see Michelle asked a question, how many copies get purchased? Michelle, it really depends on the book. The more popular a book is, the more copies that they purchase.
Yeah, you already answered that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will tell you, like those boring nonfiction books, but the ones that fit curriculum, like everybody's got like that ancient civilization project at whatever grade it is. Like there's always going to be like a couple titles of that. You're going to get a lot more copies of Diary of a Wimpy Kid and, One of Us is Lying than you are the books that everyone still needs for their projects, like to support their projects. And there is fiction. There's a good mixture of fiction and nonfiction. There's ebooks and audiobooks. Although I have to tell you, since the pandemic started, it's really audiobooks the kids are listening to. Like that's the number one thing, like we see usage-wise. I think maybe there's a bit of screen fatigue going on, but the kids are really, really at every level. This past year, the elementary group really had to beef up their audiobooks because the little ones too, I think they loved hearing a story told to them. And at the YA, at the middle and high school level, a lot of these books now have full cast recordings. So every character has its own voice actor. I love the Red Queen series. It's one of my favorite YA novel series, like dystopian. Every character has got a voice, and they're so well done. And like, so who's talking, whose chapter it is, because it's one of those books where there's different perspectives. So you always know whose chapter and whose perspective you're giving it. So there's just some really cool things that are going on with audio right now as well. I just want to see all of your faces for a second. Are there any other questions? I know Gladys has been like super wonderful and kind and helping me out and like answering questions in the chat, but is there anything that we haven't addressed or any other issues that you're worried about, any obstacles that you're, related to digital or maybe even print learning that we can help you with? I'm not saying that I have an answer, but we can try to find an answer for you.
Is the webinar that's coming up on the account setup, is that going to include the, I'm looking at the backpack authentication specs?
Our integration specialist, the person who sets up backpacks, is actually the one who's leading off the webinar tomorrow. She's the first person up talking, and she's going to talk about how we integrate with different LMS systems, and just she just wants to introduce herself, just kind of explain it, you know, and just like the benefit of like why you can use Mackin without using accounts. We really recommend you have accounts if you want your students to take notes, if you want your students to be able to check out a book, they have to have an account to do so. And we, you know, we have our class sets are coming out soon. So if you want to, like, if you're going to use a digital class set, the students have to have accounts for those to go in. Michelle just asked a question about if anyone who signs up for it, even if you cannot attend, if you hold on a second, I will get the link for it. Anyone who signs up for it, we send them a recording. Otherwise, you can just email me and I will find it for you. But let me throw that into the chat for you. Give me 1 second to look it up.
Jessica, I have a question. I set up an account towards the end of the school year, and they were running promotional, like free ebooks or trials for databases. Until I get my issue resolved with Destiny, I've reached out to you to join. Are they going to continue to do that in the fall? Because right now I have 2 kids this summer who asked to go in and look at the stuff. That's all I've had so far because I didn't get it up running.
The classics are available till December 31st, and the publisher books are, for the moment, and to the best of my knowledge, available to the 30th. I don't think the publishers are extending it. And I think we can blame our friends who are trying to go back in person to school.
Right. But that one single user, like I gave, today a parent emailed me and I just gave
that's still going to work. Absolutely. That
will still work then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until I get things up and running with my tech department. I had reached out to Kelly and Papillon's trying to help me too. But but I don't know if people realize that. You might want to explain that, if you create an account for a login with the kids, that there are promotional things available. For a while they're free.
Yeah, a lot of the pandemic stuff is no longer available. Like you had to have activated it by June 30th, but there are still free books in there. Like there we have I always recommend people check. There's a promotions page on the admin side of Mackin. We update it about every month or so. So you'll always see something new in there.
Okay. Thank you.
It was a good question. Thank you, Michelle. I just put a link to the webinar for tomorrow's training in there. It's being recorded, so if you can't come, that's, and you still want to just register, we are recording it. And if you want to set something up for your district, I think Beth wrote something, we're doing one for Parsippany and Troy Hills. I'm meeting with the East Brunswick crew tomorrow, or a lot of them. So you can always reach out. It does get a little hectic in the fall, but we will always find a time and make it work.
I'm really excited about starting this, and I'm just wondering, how long do you think it generally takes to get up and running with everything, with the digital resources, with the databases, just so that students can actually use it?
So databases give us about a week and a half to get everything, because we work with the database companies, so we're authenticating everything on the back end. Ebooks are pretty quick. We can get your other ebooks up. I think the same thing, like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Consortium books, the new books aren't going to load for a little bit. If you're buying a past year, once we get your PO, give us 72 hours and we'll have all of those books into your account. From once we get your purchase order. So it's pretty quick. We're actually heading into our busy season, so usually we can do things instantaneously. So this is why I'm saying it's taking us about a week and a half to 2 weeks to get things done. But we can get a lot of this started so that your books come in like pretty quick and pretty smoothly.
Great. If our district does it as a whole, does it need to be one PO or can it be separate POs?
It can be separate. Most schools do. It's very rare in New Jersey to get a purchase order for every school. It's usually every individual building is coming in, where like Gladys has these, Gladys's schools are like countywide, like she's got these like huge school districts. Like we don't, like our school districts are individual towns. So, like they're kind of set up a little differently. So there's a little bit more autonomy that we're used to. But yeah, every school can send in their own.
Bobby had a quote for all of us in East Brunswick, I believe. But my question, yeah, my question is, would we have to get a separate quote for each of us then?
Your secretary would probably want a separate quote for all of you. is my guess.
How quickly could we get those then? Because it says to request them, so I'm asking.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. As Donna can tell you, because we were having issues, my power got knocked out like for most of last week and came back on like I think it was Saturday. I'm still a little bit behind. Where normally I would get back to you within an hour, and Gladys can like vouch for me. Like I'm really great about answering things. I am still catching up from not having power for an entire week. So I can sit down and make sure I get you one tomorrow. Like I promise, like if you send me an email, I'm going to put my email address in here. I will make sure I get all of you an individual one tomorrow. That's not a issue. I'm sorry I put all caps. It looks like I'm yelling at you and putting my email address in there. But yes, I can absolutely get you something tomorrow. And I apologize. It's just, it's a busy time to lose your power and not have internet for days.
I don't mind waiting a whole day. I mean, hey, we're on summer break, sort of.
I still feel really horrible. I really always try to answer everybody within 24 hours. So the fact that I'm taking like longer than that is killing me right now.
Is there a sneak peek for the new title list for CLC?
We can ask the coordinators if they can provide it. I think the high school one, they're pretty much done. Like unless somebody's like making any more additional recommendations, because the high school always puts a little more money aside than everybody else because that's the biggest YA season. And we all know that this is supposed to be one of the biggest, especially in terms of diversity. I should also mention every coordinator for the consortium has gone out of their way to make sure all types of diverse titles, own and authentic voices are going to be available. So I know that the high school just in general always puts a little more aside than everybody else just because it's always a big for YA particular. There's a lot of big releases coming this year, so they want to make sure that they're able to get those when they come out. So they kind of give themselves a limit, and I think they're like kind of at like where they want to be. So we can ask them if they can share that with you so you can see what's on there.
That would be great. Thank you.
So Jess, I want to step in here. It's 8:02. We can stay on for a little while longer, but I just wanted to give everybody a chance if they had any last minute questions or anything for you to bring those forward. This is, in my opinion, has been amazing, and I'm really looking forward to it. We've been talking with Bobby and Carol and Lenore and everybody that's in East Brunswick. We've been talking on our, outside of this, and we're all very excited. But also I wanted to let you know that anyone that I've spoken to in JSOL who has dealt with Mackin, who has dealt with you, particularly Jess, glowing reports.
Oh, thank
everyone
you.
is, Yes, everyone's thrilled. Not
Oh.
just with Mackin, but with you personally as
Oh,
well.
that really makes my day. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I think Jess is like the fairy godmother of school librarians. Like, really.
Like, we get to talk books. Like, what is better than that? Like, we get to talk books. Like, that is the best job in the world.
And
Sorry.
I just wanted to share this really quickly, and you can pass it on. We had a hard time convincing our district to get on board with the ebooks. Anyway, our district librarians, we spot checked titles from the 1920 list. Like, so we took the 1920 list, picked some things that we knew, were interesting, and then we went and priced them in other formats and from other vendors. And we put together a table to compare the average cost via CLC and compared to what it will cost. And I'm not saying that turned them, because I don't know if it did, but it was a really fun project, because we were like, anybody who doesn't do this is just throwing money out the window. Like, it's just insane.
Where else are you going to spend $500 and get $300,000 worth of ebooks?
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen.
And I can vouch that I did my regular book order on Follett, and they took it at Mackin, and they're able to give me much better pricing.
Yeah, you can send us your title list from other vendors, and we'll price it out for you, even if it's a past order, just to see what you would have saved.
Yeah, and the no processing, the free processing.
I wanted to ask about the CLC.
Yes, who's I can't see who's talking. Oh, Michelle.
It was me, yeah. So
Okay.
Did you say there's a deadline for signing up for CLC?
Yeah,
I signed up, but I want to encourage our middle school to do it.
Yeah, September 1st.
Okay.
What would happen if our purchasing department didn't get our PO to you before then, but we put it in the works?
You would contact me and we'd have a separate conversation.
I'm just asking because I know what the
Yeah.
date currently is, and I know.
Yeah. Look, we're asking everyone to please try really hard for 9/1. If it can't be 9/1, we understand that there's a pandemic. Like, we're trying to be flexible. You can just contact me, and I feel confident. Like, the thing of Mackin is we never say no. Like, we'll always figure out some way to make this work. So just contact me, and we'll try to figure something out. That being said, we're asking try to get as close to 9/1 as possible, because otherwise it just gets to like when then you won't get your books on time, and it just kind of creates delays. And we just want to make sure also that your kids have books quickly.
Thank you.
It looks like we have a lot of people who are leaving us. So, Jess, I really appreciate all of this. If you could
Stop recording.
yes.